Testimonials. John Adair, author of The Leadership of Muhammed, Chair of Leadership Studies, United Nations System, Staff College in Turin. Leadership glimpsed the life of the Prophet Muhammad, according well with what we know to be the universal truth about the nature and practice of leadership. You will judge for yourself how close Muhammad comes to this ideal. William Montgomery Watt, the Scottish historian and emeritus professor in Arab and Islamic Studies at the University of Edinburgh, author of Muhammad at Mecca. His readiness to undergo persecutions for his beliefs, the high moral character of the men who believed in him and looked up to him as a leader, and the greatness of his ultimate achievement, all argue his fundamental integrity. None of the great figures of history is so poorly appreciated in the West as Muhammad. Mahatma Gandhi, the political and spiritual leader of the Indian independence movement. I wanted to know the best one holds today, undisputed sway, controlling influence over the heart of millions of mankind. I become more than convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. It was the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement, humbleness of Prophet Muhammad, the scrupulous regard, extreme care for his pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, fearlessness, and his absolute trust in God and in his own mission. When I closed the second volume of the book about his life, I was sorry that there was not more for me to read about his great life. Alfonza de La Martina, a French poet, writer, and politician, philosopher, orator, apostle, legislator, warrior, conqueror of ideas, restorer of irrational dogmas, of a cult without images, that is Muhammad. As regards all standards by which human greatness may be measured, we may well ask, is there any man greater than him? William Durant, the American historian, philosopher, and author of The Story of Civilization. His name, meaning highly praised, lent itself when to certain biblical passages as predicted his advent. Muhammad was never known to write anything himself. His apparent illiteracy did not prevent him from reciting Kur'an, which is the most famous and eloquent book in the Arabic tongue. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, a great European poet. He is a prophet and not a poet, and therefore his Qur'an is to be seen as divine law, and not as a book of a human being made for education or entertainment. Thomas Carlyle, the Scottish historian, philosopher, and author of Heroes and Hero Worships and the Heroic in History. How one man single-handedly could quell the warring tribes and wandering Bedouins into a most powerful and civilized nation in less than 2 decades. Reverend Reginald Bosworth Smith, author of Muhammad and Mohammedanism. Head of the state as well as the church, he was Caesar and Pope in one, but he was Pope without the Pope's claims, and Caesar without the legions of Caesar, without a standing army, without a bodyguard, without a palace, without a fixed revenue. If ever any man had the right to say that he ruled by a right divine, it was Muhammad, for he had all power without instruments and without its support. He cared not for dressing of power. The simplicity of his private life was in keeping with his public life. Leo Tolstoy, the famous Russian writer and novelist, also author of War and Peace. There is no doubt that Prophet Muhammad is one of the greatest reformers who served the social framework profoundly. It suffices him that he led a whole nation to the enlightenment of truth, and made it more inclined towards tranquility and peace, and prevented it from shedding blood and giving human sacrifices. He widely opened to his nation the gate of development and civilization. This is a great deed that only a strong man can do, and a man like that deserves to be regarded with respect and admiration. Maurice Bakail, a French medical doctor and a specialist in gastroenterology, a member of the French Society of Egyptology. Islam teaches that God has given man the faculty of reason and therefore expects man to reason things out objectively and systematically. In view of state of knowledge in Muhammad's days, it is inconceivable that verses of Qur'an could have been the work of man. A totally objective examination of Qur'an in the light of modern knowledge leads us to recognize the agreement between Qur'an and science.